It's no mystery to my viewers that I am a Christian. I've never made it a point to hide this fact, nor did I make it a point to constantly bring it up. So many have asked me since I was born in Iraq and lived there and Jordan for a total of 13 years, was I Shia or Sunni before I became a Christian? And my answer was always the same, neither. People would look surprised and say, "Really? So what were you then?" And I would say, "Just Christian." This answer would shock so many people because they genuinely believed that every, or almost every, Middle Eastern person must be one or both of the following: Arab and or Muslim. When I told them I was neither, they were shocked. They assumed I must be confused about something, but in reality, it was they who were confused about things, especially since they'd refuse to believe me when it comes to something they have no idea about. So, how would they know if I'm telling the truth or not? In my opinion, I didn't sense this comes from a place of hostility, but rather a place of ignorance about geography and culture. You see, Christianity is fundamentally a Middle Eastern religion. It is not a European one, despite all the history we've been taught. There are many Christians in the Middle East because it was there that the apostles first started to evangelize, starting from the area known today as the State of Israel. Jesus himself was a Jew, a very observant one, in fact. Same is true with the Apostle Paul. Naturally, many people in the Middle East are going to be Christian since it's really a geography thing. But how were Christians treated in the Middle East? More importantly, how was I treated as a Christian in the Middle East? Was I persecuted for my faith? If so, how often did that happen? I'll be discussing this in more detail in this video, as I promised I'd do in my last video. Generally speaking, Christians are not treated well in the Middle East, and the mistreatment is mostly from Muslims. Muslims do not feel the need to respect the humanity and sovereignty of Christians, and so they make their lives extra difficult because of the religious difference. They are also limited in terms of how high they can rise professionally and politically. Though, of course, they can still participate in the workforce in both white and blue collar jobs. While Christians do tend to be overrepresented in many positions of influence and generally possess a good amount of wealth, this is not the product of equality, but rather opportunity that they create for themselves, especially in areas Muslims do not want to work in. The way I was treated as a Christian was not always good. In fact, I'd argue that my religion was one of the main reasons why I got into so many fights when I was in elementary school. It's not because I'm a naturally hot headed person, rather, my environment forced me to defend myself from being pushed around, so I naturally lashed out. This is something that virtually every elementary school kid would likely do when put in that same scenario. Very few, if any, are enlightened enough to have a rational and calm response. And what would that even look like in such a situation? The conversations were oftentimes about the virtue of being a Muslim and how much I'll be rewarded in paradise for my loyalty to Allah. The pressure to convert didn't just come from students, but from teachers as well. This would take the form of constantly having conversations with me about the Quran, especially from certain teachers who would be considered shuyukh, which is the Arabic word for elders. They were generally the ones who specialized in the Quran and had a vast knowledge and understanding of Islam as a whole. They were also the leaders the people look up to, kind of like how rabbis are in Judaism and priests and pastors are in Christianity, all three branches. There were a few times when I did the ablution, which is the hands, feet, and face washing ritual that Muhammad taught them to do before they pray. I also remember on one occasion when I recited the Shahada, which is the confession of faith to become a Muslim. But in reality, I didn't understand this too much, and I said it kind of impulsively, to which many, including one teacher, seemed very happy and said, MashaAllah. When I realized what that entailed, I stopped saying it again and refused to acknowledge that I was a Muslim in any sense of the word. I became more careful after that, especially when the Sheikh would call me to stand to the side with him during PE and talk about religion. He would mention how intelligent I am and how I would be such a good Muslim, but I always refused to accept the offer. Eventually, he gave up, but also protected me from students who would try to beat me up because of religious disagreements. I thought that was a good thing that he did that because my Islamic teacher wasn't so kind. Instead, he was the one who would shove religion down my throat. But again, he was known to be very radical and intolerant, and he's different from the Sheikh, the Islamic teacher. I know this wasn't an exhaustive list of things that happened back there, but it should be enough to explain to you guys my perspective. Remember, as I always say, these videos are for information purposes only, and they are heavily or oftentimes my own perspective. So don't take this as necessarily 100% objective reflections of every similar scenario out there. So that's it for this video. If you like this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share to get notified about more videos like this one. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.